Alif has multiple uses, and the one is when it is used as a long vowel. So when it is used as a long vowel, its articulation point is al-jawf. That's the empty space between in the mouth and the throat. So this is the empty space in the mouth and the throat. The size of the mouth and the throat doesn't touch when we pronouncing it. It's the empty space that's the main cause of it. You can see in other diagrams. So that is the Makharij. Similarly, that one as well. And here, this one probably is better. So this place, that is the Makharij of Alif when it is used as a long vowel. As long vowel is 2 counts. 2 counts. I'll explain that in next slides. Okay, so in brief, whenever we use Alif as a long vowel, then its articulation points are the empty space in the mouth and the throat. Its articulation point is the lips. This one, okay. Shafatan, 2 lips, that's its articulation point. Okay, and what is its Makharij articulation point? It is top part of the tip of the tongue and the gum line of the 2 top incisors. So we need to explain that first. Before going to that, we have to explain the tongue itself. Okay, so what we can do, if you see, the tongue can be divided in multiple parts. So if you see here, this one is, that's the tip of the tongue. That's the tip of the tongue. Okay, and if you see, let me change the color. Okay, that one. Okay, if you see here, this part is, that's the top of the tip. That's the top of the tongue. So the first one is the tip of the tongue, and the next one is the top of the tongue. And from there to there, for example, is, let's see, this is the tip of the tongue. This one is the middle part. That's the middle part of the tongue, and this one is the deepest part of the tongue. And if you see, these are the sides. So we can divide tongue into multiple parts. The first one is, let me write again, show it. The first one is called the tip of the tongue. Second one is the top, the top part of the tongue. This one is the middle part of the tongue, and this one is the deepest part of the tongue. And we have the sides of the tongue, because all these parts will be used in future sessions. So that's why you need to know this. Okay. Okay. So what we said here. Okay, we said the top part of the tip of the tongue. So this is the top part of the tip of the tongue. So if you see a tongue has 3 parts. One is the front, and the front of the tip, the top side of the tip, and the underneath. So we will be using for this particular letter the top part of the tip of the tongue. Okay, and the gum line of the, this is the gum line, you see here, of the top incisors. So these 2 teeth are called incisors. That's the top incisors, and opposite to them are the bottom incisors. So for this one, we use the top part of the tip of the tongue and the gum line. This is the gum line of the top 2 incisors. Okay, you can see here in this diagram as well. So we use the top part of the tip of the tongue, and we use the gum line of the top 2 incisors. Okay, let me explain further with the 3D model. That would be, let's see, explain that. Okay. So if we go here, see, there you go. Okay, so as we explained earlier, okay, so can you see here, this part is the tip of the tongue. That is the top side of the tip, and this is the underneath side. So we will be using the top side, the top side of the tongue. Okay, so that's the top side. top side of the tip of the tongue, top side of the tip of the tongue. Okay, so I think that's the best explanation. So you can see from the top or the side. So this is better explanation. So see, this is the tip of the tongue, and we will be using the top side of the tip of the tongue. So this part will touch if you see this one here. So that's okay. This one, look. So this is the top incisors, these two, and this bit, the top side of the tip of the tongue, will touch this area. So that's basically the articulation point for ta. Okay. I hope this will help you to understand properly. Okay. Go back. Okay. Go back. So what are the Makharij? Or the Makharij is the tip of the tongue from the top side of the tip and the bottom edges of the two top incisors. So let me explain that to you. Okay. The tip of the tongue from the top side. So that's the tip of the tongue, as we explained in the previous. That's the tip of the tongue, but we take the top side of the tip of the tongue, and it says the bottom edges of the two top incisors. So we have two incisors here, and they are going to be connected, touching the tip of the tongue from the top side. Okay, so they will be connecting like this. Okay, so you can see here. So that's the tip of the tongue from the top side, and this is the connecting point of the top two incisors. Okay, so I will explain that in next slide with the 3D model, so that will make it easy for you. Okay, so if we see here, okay, that's our tongue, and let me make this as well. So this is our mouth, and see, this is okay. These are the top two incisors. Okay, so if you see here, this is the tip of the tongue, and we're going to using the top side of the tip of the tongue, and that is going to be connecting, touching these two, the two incisors, the tip of the two incisors. So that's that's what makes the sound the. Okay, I hope this will make it easy for you. Okay, let's see. Again, let's see from the different angle, and this different angle as well. Okay, so that's the tip of the tongue, and we're going to be using the top part, this bit, top part of the tip of the tongue, and we're going to be the tongue is going to be touching the top side of the top two incisors. Okay. Articulation points for Jim is the middle of the tongue and the roof of the mouth that lies opposite to it. So that is the middle of the tongue, yeah, and the roof of the mouth that opposite to that middle of the tongue. That's the articulation point. You can see in another diagram. So that is the middle of the tongue. Change it. Okay, that's the middle of the tongue, and this bit is the opposite to the middle of the tongue. Okay. So let me explain that with 3D model. Okay, let's go there. So first let's go there. Okay, and similarly here. Okay. Okay, so the middle of the tongue would be, that's the middle of the tongue. Okay, you can see here, it's the middle of the tongue. Okay, this area. And if we change that one, see the roof. Okay. Okay. So the articulation point, the middle of the tongue, and you can see the roof of the mouth that is opposite to the middle of the tongue. So this area, that is the articulation point for jim, j sound. Okay. So what is its makharij? It comes from the middle of the throat. So basically the throat has 6 letters, from the farthest from the mouth, the middle, and the nearest to the mouth. And this one is from the middle of the throat. It is produced with the base. Okay, so let me explain this to you. Okay, it is produced with the base of the tongue near the back of the mouth. So the base of the tongue, that's the base, you see here, that's the base of the tongue here, and base of the tongue, okay, near the back of the throat. So it comes near the back of the throat and strongly constricting the wall. Okay, and then if you see here, the wall is constricted compared to other situation, and tensing the tongue, and the tongue is tense, and okay, we see the sound is ha, ha. Okay, it's very difficult to pronounce for some people, and especially if for English, because there's no this equivalent letter or sound in English. Okay, so again, it is one of the throat letters. It is pronounced from the middle of the throat. What is its articulation point? It is one of the throat letters. So from throat we have 6 letters, and kha is one of them. Let me explain this. It is the nearest part. If you see here, the nearest part. So we have 1, 2, 3 different places where from each place 2 different letters are pronounced, and this is the nearest. That's the nearest part of the throat to the mouth. Okay, that's the articulation point. And how it is pronounced is, it is produced by narrowing the passageway between the back of the tongue. Okay, that's the back of the tongue, and the velum. This is called velum. This one, you can see this one. Okay, the velum, to create friction. To create friction as the air passes through. So it is come near to each other, and when the air passes through, it creates the sound. Okay. Okay. So again, if we go through again, it is produced by narrowing the passageway between the back of the tongue. That's the back of the tongue, and the velum. That's the velum. And when they create a friction as the air passes through. Okay, and this is the articulation point for kha, or the sound. So what is the articulation point? It says top part of the tip of the tongue and the gum line of the 2 top incisors. So if you see, that is quite similar to the one we have studied before, like there, but the difference, okay, the difference would be the sifat that causes a difference in the 2 different letters. Okay, so let me explain that to you. Top part, let me do that. Top part of the tip of the tongue. So if this is the tip, and this is the top part of the tip, okay, and it says the gum line of the 2 top incisors. So this is 1, 2, we have 2 incisors, and this is the gum line. Okay, so the top part of the tip of the tongue and the gum lines of the top 2 incisors, when we're pronouncing dal, that's where the sound come from. Okay, You can see in the other diagram. So that's the top part of the tip of the tongue, and this is the gum line for the top two incisors. Let me explain this in 3D model. And next slide. Okay, just the one. Okay. Okay. So let me clear this. Okay, as we have the mouth, the tongue. Okay, I'll come to this diagram. Okay. So this is the tip. Okay, as we have this is the tip, and we say it's the top of the tip of the tongue, so we will be using the top part of the tip of the tongue. That's the top part, and it's the two incisors, top incisors, the gum line. Okay, so the gum line of the top two incisors. So the tip of the tongue, the top part of the tip of the tongue, and the gum lines of the top two incisors as the Makharij, as the articulation point for dal. So the Makharij, the main Makharij is the tongue. So it is pronounced from the tip of the tongue, from the top side of the tip, and the bottom edges of the top incisors is similar to the one we studied. Okay, it's quite similar to that one. It's actually same Makharij, but the characteristic, the sifat, is different. So that's why we have a different sound. Okay, so what we do is we explain that first. Right. Okay, so the tip of the tongue, so we have, this is the tip, and we have in the tip we have the top side. So we take the top side of the tip of the tongue and the bottom edges of and they are touching the bottom edges of the top two incisors when we are pronouncing them. Okay, if you see another diagram, so that's the top side of the tip of the tongue, and this one is the bottom edges of the two top incisors. Okay, so what we'll do, I'll explain this in 3D model, so I think that will make it a bit more clear. Okay, see. Okay, so this is the tip of the tongue, yeah, and we will, okay, at the top part of the tip of the tongue, that will be touching the bottom edges of the front top two incisors when we are pronouncing the word dal. Okay, so the articulation point is the tip of the tongue from the top side of the tip and the gums of the top two incisors. That's the articulation point. Okay, explain that to you. Okay, so the tip of the tongue from the top side. So again, this is, okay, this is the tip of the tongue, but we will be using the top side of the tip of the tongue, and that will be touching when we're reciting the ra, will be touching the gums of these top two incisors. Okay, this place, that's the ra articulation point. And the tongue is positioned in different situation because ra is heavy at times and other time is light. So it's actually both, it has both properties. Sometime it will be heavy, other times it will be light. We will discuss that in future, but when it is light, the position of the tongue is different than when it is heavy. You can see that from the image here. Okay. How it is produced? It is produced by tapping the tip of the tongue behind the upper teeth. So it is produced by tapping the tip of the tongue behind the upper teeth, and it is a trill. Means a rapid succession of several flaps. Okay. R, r. Okay. Okay, let me explain that in 3D. Okay. Okay. Okay, so we have the tip of the tongue, but we will be using the top part of the tip of the tongue with these are the top two incisors, and they will be touching these gum lines of the top two incisors, the flapping. Okay. So the Makharij. Makharij is one of the tongue letters. Lisan is the main Makharij, and let me go through that and see. Okay, so the tip of the tongue near the inner plates of the top two incisors. That's the tip of the tongue. Okay, that's the tip of the tongue, and near the inner plates of the top two incisors. So near the inner plates. Okay, near the inner plates of top two incisors, and slightly above the lower incisors. Okay, and slightly above the lower incisors. You see here, lower incisors. Okay, that's the lower incisors. Okay, a small space is left between the incisors and the tongue when pronouncing them. Okay, so it's actually the tip of the tongue near the inner plates of the top two incisors, and above the lower incisors. Okay, slightly above the lower incisors. That's the articulation points for the letter Z. Let me go through. Let me do it. Explain it with 3D model. Okay. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Go on. Okay. Okay. So we have as the tip of the tongue. Okay, tip of the tongue, and that's the inner place near the top incisors. Okay, the top incisors near the inner plate, and slightly above the the bottom two incisors. So that's the articulation point for Z. Okay. It is one of the tongue letters. Lisan is the Makharij for it, articulation point, and it is similar to its articulation point is similar to that of Z, but the sifat is different, so that will make a different sound. Okay, I'll just read that through and then explain it practically. The tip of the tongue near the inner plates of the top two incisors. So the tip of the tongue is used. Okay, the tip of the tongue, and near the inner plates of the top incisors. That's near the inner plates of top incisors. Okay, and slightly above the lower incisors. That's slightly above the lower incisors. Okay. So a small space is left when we pronouncing seen. Okay, so between the tongue and the incisors. And we're going back to the 3D model, so that will explain in great detail. Okay. So the tip of the tongue, let's try. Okay, so the tip of the tongue, that's one place, and it is near the inner plates of the top two incisors, and slightly above the lower incisors. Okay, that's the 3 articulation points. Okay, and when we pronouncing it, as we explained, that there will be a small space left between the tongue and the incisors. It is one of the tongue letters. Lisan is the Makharij for it, and if you see sub Makharij, that would be middle of the tongue and the roof of the mouth that lies opposite to it. So let me explain that. Okay. So middle of the tongue, we have this is the middle of the tongue, okay, and the roof of the mouth that lies opposite to it. So the roof of the mouth that lies opposite to it, okay. So that would be the Makharij. Similar here, middle of the tongue and the roof. That's middle of the tongue and the roof of the mouth that opposite to the middle of the tongue. Okay. Again, so it's middle, and this place. Okay, so let me go to the 3D model and explain it there. Okay, let's see. Okay, so that's probably better. So the middle of the tongue would be this spot. Okay, okay. So middle of the tongue, and opposite to that would be this spot. Okay, so that is the articulation point for sheen. The articulation point, it is one of the lisan, the tongue letters. If you see here, the tip of the tongue, that's the tip of the tongue, that's one place near the inner plates of the top two incisors. So near the inner plates of the top two incisors, slightly above the lower incisors. Okay, slightly above the lower incisors. See here. So the first one is the tip of the tongue here, near the inner plates here, and this one is slightly above the lower incisors. So a small space is left when we are pronouncing it. Okay, so there's all the 3 different points of explaining the articulation point for Saad. Let me go to the 3D model and see we can show you better. Graphical representation. Okay. Okay. So the articulation points for this is, that is the tip of the tongue. Okay, near the inner plates of the inner place near the top incisors, and slightly above the lower incisors. Those 3 points are the articulation points when we're pronouncing the word, the letter Saad. So what is its articulation point? It is one of the tongue letters, and it is pronounced from one or both edges of the tongue, and when it's touching the upper molars. Okay, so that is one or both sides of the tongue. Okay, you can see here as well. And when those parts touching the upper molars, okay, that causes the sound of Ba'd. Similarly here, this diagram, and the teeth here. Okay. Let me explain. Let me go to the 3D model and explain it there. Okay. So we have the one or two sides of the tongue, okay, and they are touching the top molars. Okay, so that's the articulation point for the letter Bad or Ab, the sound Ab, the second part of Ab. The articulation point, it is one of the tongue letters. Lisan is the Makharij for it, and it is pronounced from the top part of the tip of the tongue and the gum lines of the top two incisors. So that's the we have the tip, and this is the top part of the tip of the tongue, and then we have the gum lines of the top two incisors. That's the gum line of the top two incisors, top side of the tip of the tongue and the gum line of the top two incisors. So let me go to the 3D model and explain it further there. Okay, so let's see. So if you see here, so this is the tip of the tongue, okay, and we will be using the top side of the tip of the tongue, the top side of the tip of the tongue, and we will be using the gum line of the top two incisors. So this is incisor 1, incisor 2, and these are the the gum lines of the top two incisors. Okay. Makharij, it is one of the lisan, the tongue letters, and its articulation point is tip of the tongue from the top side of the tip and bottom edges of the top two incisors. So tip of the tongue, okay, we have the tip of the tongue from the top side, so we use the tip of the tongue, but the top side of the tip of the tongue, and the bottom edges of the top two incisors. So it's going to touch the bottom edges of the top two incisors. So this is incisor 1, this is incisor 2, and it's going to touch the tip of the tongue from the top side. It's going to touch the edges, the bottom edges of the two incisors when the sound for dha is produced. Similarly, you can see here, that's the tip of the tongue from top side, and this is the bottom edges of the top two incisors. Let me explain that with 3D model. Okay. So we have the tip of the tongue, that's the tip of the tongue, but from the top side. This is the top side of the tip of the tongue here. Top side tip of the tongue. And we're going to touch the the bottom edges of these two incisors. This is incisor 1, incisor 2, top ones, and they're going to touch the bottom edges of the top two incisors when we're producing the sound of al or dha, al. Okay. So the articulation point, it is one of the halq, the throat letters, one of the 6 letters. Okay, and it is pronounced from the middle of the throat. So as we said before, we have 2 letters from the lowest part of the throat, far from the mouth, nearest to the chest, and we have the top, which is nearest to the mouth, and we have the middle part. So middle part, ha, ayn. So ayn is the second letter of from the middle of the throat. So how it is pronounced, you see the muscle of the throat should be tightened. Okay, as the muscle of the throat is tightened here, cause the passage to become constricted. So it's tightened, then the passage is constricted and resulting in a squeezed sound. Ayn, a. Okay, that's the articulation point. So it's Makharij. Makharij is one of the halq, the throat letters, one of the 6 letters, as we explained before. Okay, see here, that's 2 here, 2 here, and 2 there. So it is actually the nearest part of the throat to the mouth, the nearest part to the throat, and we have already used this one for the letter of kha. Okay, and how it is produced? It is produced by narrowing. It is produced by narrowing the passageway between the back of the tongue and the velum. Okay, so this is the velum. Okay, you can see here is the velum. So we are constricting the pathway between the back of the tongue and the velum. Okay, and it creates friction when the air passes through. Create the sound of ghain. Okay, so that's the articulation point for ghain. What is its makharij? It is one of the shafatan letters, that lips, or one of the lips letters. Okay, for the inside of the lower lip and the tips of the upper incisors. So we have the inside of the lower lip, so we have the inside of the lower lip, that's the inside of lower lip, and the tips of the top 2 incisors. So when you're pronouncing it, that sits on the lower lip, so as fa, creating a sound fa. Okay, so that's the upper incisors, the tips of the upper incisors, and the inside of the lower lip. That's how it is produced, the sound of fa. Okay, so it's articulation points. Articulation point is one of the lisan, throat, tongue letters, and it is pronounced from the deepest part of the tongue, which is next to the throat, and what lies opposite to it of the mouth, that is opposite soft palate. So we have, this is the deepest part of the tongue. Okay, so we divide this into 2. So this is the side which is closest to the mouth, to the throat, and this is closest to the tongue, to the mouth or to the teeth. Okay, so we will be using this side for qaf and this side for another letter, which is kaf. We'll discuss that in next session. Okay, so this is the deepest part of the tongue, which nearest to the throat, and what lies opposite to it. So its opposite is this soft palate. Here again, okay, make a half this part of the tongue, and what opposite to it of the mouth, that's soft palate. Okay, so that's the articulation point for qaf. Similarly here in this diagram, you see here, that's the deepest part of the tongue, and what is opposite to it, that's the soft palate of the roof of the mouth. Now let me explain that with 3D model. Okay, in 3D model you can see that. So if we see this is the deepest part of the tongue, we divide it into half, and this is this part which is closest to the throat, that will be touching what is opposite to it of the roof of the mouth, that is soft palate. Okay, so that's the articulation point for qaf, and the sound is aqo, aqo, qaf, aqo. Okay. What is the makharij? So it is one of the tongue letters, lisan letters, and its articulation point is the deepest part of the tongue, okay, towards the mouth, and what lies opposite to it of the mouth. That's the still a soft palate or near the hard palate. Okay, so let's see, explain that now. Okay, so the deepest part of the tongue, if we have, this is the deepest part of the tongue, we divide this into two. So this side is towards the throat, and this side is towards the mouth or towards the teeth. So we will be using this side, and this is going to touch what is opposite to it of the roof of the mouth, which is the soft palate, but towards the hard palate. Okay, so if you see here again, if you divide into two, the deepest part, the part which is closer to the teeth, that will be used to touch what is opposite to it of the roof of the mouth, okay, of the soft palate, and it's towards the hard palate. The qaf was just down there, and the kaf is a bit upper, you can see here, and soft palate touching here. Okay, so this is the articulation point for kaf, or the sound ak, ak. Okay, let me go to the 3D model and explain it there. Okay, see, here's the tongue. So that's, we have the deepest part of the tongue. This part, this side is towards the mouth or towards the teeth, so that will be touching what is opposite to it, the soft palate. Okay, what is opposite a soft palate will be touching the opposite of the deepest part of the tongue. So that's the articulation point for kaf or ak, kaf, or the sound is ak, ak. So what is its articulation point? It is one of the tongue letters, lisan letters, and the articulation point is, it's quite detailed, but I'll explain it to you one by one. It's okay, one point by point. Okay, so the nearest part of the side of the tongue is the nearest part, and nearest to the mouth. Okay, the second part is, okay, that's the first part. So the top is called the nearest part as well. So if we divide, again, we divide the tongue in few parts. So the first part would be the top, the tip of the tongue, and then we have the top of the tongue, or it's called the nearest part as well. Okay, and then the other one would be, this would be middle of the tongue, and this is the deepest part of the tongue. Okay, green. Okay, so this part, first one is the tip of the tongue, this one is the top of the tongue, or the nearest part of the tongue, this is the middle part of the tongue, and this is the deepest part of the tongue. So it says from the nearest part of the side, so it's actually from here to here, or from here to there, it's referring to that, and at the end of its tip, so it's referring to that from here to there. Okay, the tip, what lies opposite to it of the gum of the first top two inside of premolars. So whatever lies opposite to it. So if you see here, start from here to there. Two upper premolars, this one and that one. Okay, that's premolars. And then upper canines, this is a canine, this is a canine, and two upper lateral incisors. So this is lateral incisors, and this is lateral incisors, and then the last ones are the front incisors. So this is one and this is two. Okay, So these are the names of those teeth. And the articulation point, okay, its articulation point is the front edge of the tongue, and that's the front edge of the tongue when it's connecting that part. Lam, L, that is the articulation point. You can see here. And that's the opposite to it. Okay, so let me explain that into in 3D model, but just let me write it. Let me explain again. So instead of going from that side, we're going backwards. That would be the two incisors, the front two incisors, okay, these ones, and then we have the lateral incisors, this one and that one, and then we have the canines, and then we have the premolars, okay, the upper premolars, so all the upper side of the mouth. Let me explain that again with 3D model. Okay, that's better. So from the nearest part of the tongue, this is where it to the top, to the tip of the to the tip of the tongue. Similar here. It's another color. It's probably better. Okay, and then it's going to touch the gum lines of, this is the incisor, the top incisors, these are the lateral incisors, okay, and these are the canines, okay, and these ones are the premolars. So it's going to touch the tip of the tongue, front tip of the tongue, to the gum lines of these teeth. Okay, that's the articulation point for lam, or the sound L. What are the Makharij? So it has two Makharij. It is pronounced with the lips, from the lips, kind of closing the lips, mim, and similarly that's the shafatan, and similarly it has al-khayshum, the nasal passage as well, when it is pronounced as a ghunna, with ghunna. So that's, you have to close the lips, and the sound, the A goes through the nose. Okay, let's see. So the lips, we close the lips, mim, and same time we have the sound coming from the ghunna. Ghunna is one the property of two letters, mim and noon. So if you hear someone who has been giving ghunna to every other letters, that is wrong, because we see some people, they recite Quran and everything comes from the nose. That's wrong, because the ghunna is the property of only two letters, that's mim and noon. So articulation points. So it has two articulation points. The first one is lisan, the tongue, and we will explain one by one. Okay, so if you see here, okay, so from the top, from the tip of the top, from the tip of the tongue and what lies opposite to it. So from the tip of the tongue and what lies opposite to it, okay, that's the roof of the mouth, the gum of the two top incisors, okay, this place, and slightly beneath the articulation point of lam. This is for noon when it is not hidden. So hidden, noon has multiple uses. So this is only when noon is clearly pronounced. Then this is the articulation point. Okay, so that's the tip of the tongue, and this is the place on the gums of the top two incisors. So you can see here, that's the tip of the tongue and the gums of the top two incisors. This is when the noon is pronounced clearly. When in other case, when it has ghunna attached to it, then the articulation point is al-khayshum, the nasal passage. Then the sound goes through that as well. It has different multiple uses, but we will have maybe few lessons on it, not one, because it has a lot of uses of noon. There has a lot of rules attached to noon sakina, tanween, etc. This is just the basic. Okay, so the basic is the tip of the tongue and what is opposite to that, the gum of the two top incisors. When it's clear and when it is with ghunna, then the khayshum, the nasal passage, is involved in there as well. Let me explain that with the 3D model. Okay. Okay. So we use the tip of the tongue as the one point, and that's the gum line of the top two incisors. Okay. That's the articulation point when the noon is pronounced clearly, and when it is not clearly, then with ghunna and stuff, then you have other passage or the Makharij involved in there. Okay, so we can't do that on here 3D diagram, so we have explained that in previous slide. It has two articulation points as well. The first one is when this is written as mad, but it's actually mad, non-mad. Non-mad means when it's not lengthened. So it's written like in English as mad, but it's pronounced as mad. Okay. The wow, when it is not, when it's unlengthened and with its consonant used as a consonant, then it is articulated from forming a circle of two lips without meeting them, and it would. So if you see here, okay, that's wow. This is wow. So the main force is here on the lips, and nothing else is involved. And when it is, the sound will be ow, ow, and that's when it is consonant. But when it is a vowel, then it's al-jawf. Al-jawf means the empty space, between the mouth and the throat. That is its articulation point, and it is pronounced as oo, as a vowel. Okay. So that's the difference in different usage of vowel. One is consonant, one is vowel. Okay, and different articulation points for both of them. For consonant, you use, for both of them, use lips, but the other parts are not involved, and focus is on the lips. And for the mad, it is the rest of the empty space of the mouth and the halq, the throat. So the articulation point for ha is, it is one of the throat letters, one of the 6 letters of the throat letters. Okay. Okay. So if you see here, we know that the throat is divided into 3 parts. Okay. And that is the deepest part. So the deepest part of the throat, meaning the farthest from the mouth, that's the farthest from the mouth and closest to the chest. So the next is is the chest. Okay, that's the articulation point. And if you see here, in that case, if you see in her, the vocal cords are slightly open compared to another one, hamza, that's kind of almost closed. So as the vocal cord remains slightly open, but it is pronounced from the deepest part of the throat. As the sound is and the letter is ha. Okay. So the articulation point for Hamza is the deepest part of the throat. As we explained before, that we have three parts of the halq, the throat, and this is from the deepest part, that is closest to the chest. Okay, closest to the chest, you can see here. And in Hamza, what happens is the vocal cords are almost closed when we're pronouncing Hamza. Hamza, sound. Okay, so it is almost closed. That's the articulation point. That's the deepest part of the throat, near to the chest. What are the articulation points for ya? They are multiple. Okay, when when ya is used as alif maqsura, then the articulation point is the empty space between the mouth and the throat, and the position of the tongue looks like this, and the sound is double A. Okay, so that's when ya is used as alif maqsura, a long vowel. So this alif maqsura, it means shortened alif. Alif maqsura, that's in English it's called shortened alif. That's the first one. The second one is when the ya is used as another long vowel. It is E, and it is normally ya, and before that is a kasra. So it's a hidden sukoon, and the letter before it has kasra. That's another sound. It's called E. We will explain this in the following session as well in more detail. So the second one is the long vowel ya as a long vowel, and the sound is E, and the articulation point is the empty space between the mouth and the throat, but the tongue position is like this. So the difference is when ya as alif maqsura, the tongue position is this, and when it is E, then the position is like this. The third one is when the ya is used as consonant. Then the position, then the articulation point is different. That's the middle of the tongue and what is opposite to it. But we will explain this in the following session. So this part is explained in the following session, and these two are here. So it has two articulation points because it had two different sounds. So it has two different articulation points. So if it is non-mad, so it is again it's mad, it's not mad, it's non-mad, which is when it is a consonant, then its articulation point is al-lisan, the tongue, as from the middle of the tongue and the roof of the mouth that lies opposite to that position. Okay, so let me explain the top part first. So this is the middle, make it green. Okay, that's middle of the tongue, and that's middle of the tongue, and what lies opposite to that. So that's when we are pronouncing ya as a consonant, not vowel, as a consonant. For example, I. So the middle of the tongue touches the roof of the mouth that opposite to the middle of the tongue. Okay, that's I. See here as well. That's the middle of the tongue and opposite to that of the roof of the mouth. Okay, so I when it is consonant. That's one explanation. And if it is written as a mad or long vowel, then it has different. Then it's al-jawf. Al-jawf, that's the empty space in the mouth and the throat. That's the empty space in the mouth and the throat. That is its makharij. For example, E, B, ki. The second part of all these words are the long vowel of long vowel of ya. Okay. So what we can do, we can explain one of them with the 3D model when it is consonant. Okay, so that's the middle of the tongue. Okay, that's the roof. Okay. So ya when it's consonant, then what is going to happen when we're pronouncing it? Then it's the middle of the tongue. Change the color, more clear. So that's the middle of the tongue, and that touches opposite to that of the roof of the mouth. Okay, so that's the ya when consonant. I, second part of I, ya. That is the articulation point for ya.